Welcome back to Melanin Minds, where we are highlighting Black women in the comic book and manga space. I am one of your hosts, Tashi J. Right here is my illustrious and beautiful co-host.
Hi, I'm Ty, Black and Culture. What's going on, guys?
Today we have another really awesome guest. All right. Our guest today is a podcast host and journalist who grew up reading magazines and always wanted to work for magazines. And so, you know what she decided to do? Start her own. So, she went to school and took media arts courses, media management, and magazine courses, where she was able to create her own platform to build a community for people who wanted to share their nerdy interests together. She highlights pop culture happenings and the POV of marginalized, nerdy feminists, and also creates her own comic books. So I would like everyone to welcome Erica onto the show.
Hey.
Girl, so not just the big thing. That's where they're supposed to be.
Okay. Hey.
Welcome, welcome. How are you today?
It feels like Sunday part two, so it
That's what
feels
happens when
real
the kids are
weird today. Yeah, it feels like
home.
Sunday part two, but I can't really complain, right? I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I know it's been like a super long time.
Look, we've all last year was a year, I believe,
Yeah.
for most of us. So
Yeah, I
it's
don't even
literally a
count
long
last
time.
year. That's
But
a,
like
that's a throwaway
literally,
year. That don't count.
I don't. I mean, honestly, in my mind, it's still 2019. We haven't gotten to properly experience years in life since COVID
hmm
took us out. Actually, since the year
hmm
before COVID took us out.
Mm.
So it's still 2019. Nothing for the past few years counts except all our successes. That is all. Yeah, but still, thank you for coming on, for your patience, because like you said, it's been a minute and a long time coming. Hopefully,
hmm
introduction was good, but I would love for you to give your version of how you got started in everything you've been doing.
that's a very layered question. All right, so I guess from the top, I'm a millennial, right? And so I remember the world when we had landline phones, and I also remember the world when we used to get AOL CDs and pop them in our computer and the dial-up. So I part of the generation that remembers things in the analog, but are the test babies for everything digital. So I know a lot of people introduction into comics are going to the comic book store and flipping through their granddaddy's boxes of comics. That's not my origin story. I'm from the south side of Chicago, born and raised, and in the hood we don't have comic book stores. We have the library. You go downtown Chicago, you might have a bookstore here, but for the most part, I didn't have paper floppy comics. My introduction to comics was the newspaper. I was, you know, obsessed with reading the comics, the black and white comics, Monday through Friday, and then waiting for my parents to come home with the colored papers on the weekend so I could cut out my favorite comic strips. And that was pretty much my foundation of comics. And then, of course, I have a little brother who's really big into superheroes. So, Saturday morning, like many millennials, wake up with a big ass bowl of a really sweet cereal and sit on the floor and watch X-Men on TV. Um, as I got older and my reading taste started to shape and form, I started getting into Archie comics. So Archie was pretty much my first, dedicated fandom for me because at the time Archie comics were available at the supermarket. They had the Danielle Steele books, all the other little white girl books, and then magazines, and then you'll see some Archie comics. So me and my friend, we would just trade Archie comics, and then between reading is fundamental and the book fairs, I would get like little comics from there. So I read a lot of like the vintage comics like Felix the Cat and Mighty Mouse. And as I got older, I started reading like Sonic and things like that. But I never really jumped into superhero comics until I got a lot older. So I'm very much at the core, I'm very much a slice of life type of comic book reader. Like anything that's like slice of life, that's whether it's satire or whatever the case may be, slice of life is always going to get me. So, give me the Boondocks, give me Peanuts, give me all those type of things. I want all of that. So, um, went to college for journalism. I've always had an interest of centering um, marginalized communities and media because we never have enough of it. But it's about 2016. Can't believe it's been like 10 years now. I had just graduated college and I was working at AOL as a social media assistant. And at the time, there was like HuffPost Live. So celebrities would come on HuffPost Live and then walk across the hall to AOL, right? So there was celebrities and people of interest walking in and out every single day. And as I worked on this live segment part of AOL, there's a lot of comic book at the time, comic book stories and movies started to get really more popular, right? So I kind of feel like I was at the right place at the right time because in 2014 I published a magazine issue where I found a model to have her look like Misty Knight. So my illustrator and partner in crime who I've been working with for a long time, made her look like Misty Knight. And then people was like, "Who's Misty Knight? What is this? What is this?" And like I felt so like dejected because I feel like as an artist, as a creative, and as someone who works in media, if I have to explain to you the image, what I'm trying to convey is just not working. And I felt myself explaining who Misty Knight is, the significance of Misty Knight in pop culture, and like no one got it. So I was pretty defeated from that. But in 2016, 2 years later, I started covering, Black superheroes and mainstream media. And I wrote a very unintentional viral article about Luke Cage and Gangstar. And I just know it went super viral. And it basically every, media web story picked it up and recycled it in their own words or whatever. But yeah, so since then I've been talking about Black superheroes and their intent, and I found myself kind of like at the crossroads of scholarship, academia, and media. So that's where that been doing that, going to the Schomburg, talking about Afrofuturism and just trying to use my position as a media member to keep these conversations current and always in media because that's pretty much my job. And there's a lot of storytelling that needs to be said and a lot of storytelling that reflects where we are in society. And I'm just happy that, we're now in a time where we don't have to explain who Octavia Butler is. If at this point you don't know who Octavia Butler is, you're probably like a hermit or something like that, right? If we talked about Octavia Butler maybe 10, 15, even 20 years ago, only like a select niche of people would know who Octavia Butler is. And I just want to continue pushing these names out to the masses so people can learn. I hope that wasn't a long rant.
Absolutely not. We love layers. Okay. We want to be like ogres and onions over here. Layers on layers on layers. Also, I would just like to say that the people you were working with were uncultured and is their completely and utterly their problem that they didn't understand the Misty Knight reference and not yours at all.
True, because I remember the photographer, because so the creative process was I got a regular girl and
Mm,
I had her pose like Misty Knight, right? So we have this beautiful picture of this girl with this big black afro and she was kind of like, sexy and oily and just but my artist painted on top of the picture. So even though in the
mm,
raw picture, she kind of has a nipple out with a jacket open and a gun in her hand, he
mm,
painted the picture to give her like the robotic arm, the big puffy, fro. I'll send you a picture of it. I thought it was dope. The cover has been shown in different galleries, so
mm.
people appreciate it now. But when it came out, it was just a
Yeah.
cluster of Yeah. But that's okay, because you know what? I learned from that. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
And even though I was a little bit ahead of myself in 2014, it worked out later. So
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that picture sounds actually very
it's
awesome.
phenomenal.
yeah, I'm
I
gonna
think it's
actually look
actually
send it to you.
I think it's actually really interesting that you bring up that when you were when you started when you released this picture in your magazine that no one was familiar with it. I feel like that
Hmm.
sentiment for a lot of people um,
Hmm.
was pervasive even through 2018 when we kind of had like that black superhero renaissance with Black Panther. There
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
just even to this day, I think that there's um a real lack of knowledge about just how much black superheroism
Superheroes.
exists in media. Um,
Yes.
so not to say I know it could have been I know you probably felt like absolutely just like man these people are so ridiculous. How do you not know this tonight? Even to this day, it's actually kind of it's
Niche
always funny to
news.
me how few black superheroes people are really familiar with. Like
Mm.
once you say if it hasn't been in a Marvel movie or if they haven't been in a DC property, they don't know who they are.
Right.
And that's just
Mm.
it kind of sucks. Which is why I'm happy that there are more people, especially like yourself, in this space that are educating people about these characters because there are still sometimes when they go to conventions and I'm like, yeah, this character, you know them, and they're like, no, I don't. Who even is that? It's like they're all throughout the history of this company. I'm excited to see the picture as well.
Yes.
Okay,
But no,
I'm
I
gonna
agree. It's
pull it
like
up.
if they're not like the really popular black characters, and we got like what, four of those all together between Marvel and DC.
Right.
Like it's like a niche topic of I just happen to be I very much a comic enthusiast, and so I know these characters exist.
Hmm.
But other than that, it's like if it's not static, Black Panther, now Miles, but Miles is newer, so I don't know if we would really count him. Uh,
Storm. I know her
right,
name is
but
Tassa.
Storm, like everybody knows who Storm is. Like if it's,
Hmm.
I'll even give you Icon to an extent because Icon seems to be really popular among a lot of people. And to be fair, I feel like that's all thanks to Rocket. She's the real hero of that story in my eyes. But but like if it's
No,
not
I
that,
agree with you. I agree with you that Rocket is really the true hero
Hmm.
mhm.
of Icon and Rocket Duo, because I mean, never mind. Go ahead.
No, please continue. Please don't
No.
stop.
No, because like I'm in the middle of writing a static book, so
Mm.
I don't want to say anything conflicting on record
Okay.
while I finish this book.
I will allow that because yeah, let's not have you throw off your book. Fine.
Um, what I will start off with that I think it's interesting. So, um, the fact that you started off in comics and like what I would call like really the birthplace of comics, which is newspaper comics.
Hmm.
How has it
Hmm.
been, I guess, engaging in sequential art, starting off kind of in, in the back of newspapers and maybe even consuming what some people would call political comics, then moving into more of the superhero comics or like the casual comics that everyone else has read?
I haven't done any superhero comics,
Really?
so I
Please.
haven't done. I've done a crime
Mm-hmm.
comic. That was the first one I did with Nora's the New Black. That
Okay.
was like a New Jack City crime in Chicago. So it was like a really hip hop inspired murder mystery. Then I did A Taste of Venus, which is a sapphic, cozy fantasy.
Okay.
No superheroes. It's just basically space age food and finger banging. And then there's the Jay Dilla and ODB comic. Again, no superheroes. I am doing a commission piece that is more of a sci-fi space opera. I can't talk about it.
Mm,
But yeah, so I have not done any superhero comics, and I guess that pretty much solidifies that I come from like the slice of life
right.
strong influence, because most people who do comics they go right into superheroes, and
They do.
superheroes are. I have opinions on superheroes that are not really that popular.
Mm,
So, it would take a lot for me to do a superhero story. I would not do like a cape suit superhero story. No.
gotcha.
Guilty, honestly. And I think as I get older, I'm realizing that I really am more of a like, I like these just non-superhero stories. I still have not picked up Nora's New Black, but I have been wanting it. Um,
Nora's New Black is phenomenal.
yeah.
Phenomenal book.
But it is definitely one of the ones that's been on my list for a while. And of course, I can't wait to get the new project that's part of the Afro Futures anthology that's
I'm
coming very
really
soon.
excited. I'm
I'm
very
so
excited
excited for
about
that.
that.
Like this book, first the art in the book looks good, all the different stories look good. Like I can't wait for that. And also, I never really, as someone who started off as a funnies in the newspaper girl, I never really thought about that being the beginning of my comic journey before, because so many people don't count newspaper comics and the funnies. So, like, if I were had said anything as far as actual comic books, I probably would have started with Archie because I did that in the grocery store too. So that's an interesting thought that I did not really consider. That yeah, I started with
Mhm.
the funny papers. That is my start to comics before everything
Mhm.
else. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
But I know, but maybe someone else doesn't know the behind your story that's in the Afrofutures comic. Can you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about the inspiration and the story there?
All right. So, again, as a journalist, I just have random useless information in my head, right? Just random facts. I'm just like a
Never
laffy taffy. That's
useless.
like, yeah, but just random facts. And I think that's, also part of my ADHD. I just pick up random facts and kind of like go down a rabbit hole of information. So, I am a big fan of music again and hip hop. I'm definitely a B girl, um, self-proclaimed B girl, hip hop head, all of the makings. And being from the Midwest, of course, I love Midwest artists. And one of the most impactful artists from the Midwest that I love is Jay Dilla. So some years ago, I was, on a YouTube rabbit hole and I found the Erica Badu video. I love Erica Badu as an artist. I've seen her live multiple times. I have all her albums, love her music. And she was talking about her album and the inspiration behind the song Telephone. And so Telephone, our album sounds very dreary. It sounds like a funeral song. Like that's the vibe I've always got, very gothic feel to it. And she explained that she was inspired by that song because um the last days of Jay Dilla's death, he, was kind of in and out of consciousness and a bit delirious because of the drugs he was on because he battled lupus, I believe, and he would hallucinate. And one of the times he hallucinated, he told his mother that old dirty bastard was calling him, and this was like in 2006. So 2005, 2006. So ODB had already been dead by then. So at the end of his life, he's kept saying, ODB wants to talk to him. He's telling him, you know, get on the white bus. And I thought that was a really interesting story of someone, succumbing to their illness, but their illness is not overshining their love and passion for music. Because, like, even in his last breath, his last words, he's still talking about hip hop. He's still talking about music. And I thought that was really impactful on Jay Dilla's end of how he saw, creativity in music. And also, out of all the people who've died, ODB, could you imagine like ODB, your guardian angel? Like, that's so random. And because ODB is such a colorful character, you know, with that knowledge, I kind of like ran the song back in my head. And I was like, you know what? The song doesn't have a lot of words to it, but because you keep repeating it, the images was just going through my head. So I tucked it in. I was like, if an opportunity arises and someone is into it, we'll see what happens. And so when I heard about the ODB graphic novel, and I heard about it because they sent me the press release, right? So Ani Press sent me the press release about this ODB graphic novel, and they, if I wanted to talk to the editor or whatever the case may be, I was like, no, I don't want to talk to the editor to talk about the debut of it. I think it's cool. I want to be in it. Like I want to submit a story. And so they wasn't really interested because of deadlines. They don't really know me. And one of the creators of the ODB anthology, Troy, I was basically ranting and begging, like, please introduce me, please. Like, yo, you gotta, yo, this is a dope as, who would think of something like this besides me? Like, this is so cannabis infused. It's like a fever dream, a hip hop fever dream, right? Based on a real song that people can actually reference, right? And so he liked it, but the ODB team, they were done. So so Troy, he said, yo, I'll pay you to do it. And I have an artist. So that's pretty much how it got done. Because if Troy would have said no, it still would have been sitting in my notebook amongst other things, of other stories that never, got anywhere else.
I hope those other stories come out of your notebook in the future, by the way.
Yeah.
Because the way we need to start putting some more of these stories out there that we wouldn't think that we thought about and just kind of left by the wayside. I think more people need to hear more of the stories that we are all trying to tell that aren't superhero stories. Because I
Mm.
think I think Ty said it once, and she was just like, I don't want. I'm tired of superhero stories, and and then I had to mimic that sentiment and be like, me too, and that's hard because I'm writing them, and so I have to try to figure out how to get them out of the way so I don't have to focus on them anymore
Mm.
and work on something else. Because it is tiring. Most of the comic medium is superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, as I get older, I'm finding that I like more of those slice of life and other just more chill kind of mediums.
Actually, I think it's really interesting that there isn't more hip hop comic book crossover, especially just with uh like I think of Wu-Tang Clan and how they kind of had this how they have this kind of seamless crossover into kind of animation.
Hmm.
And I think of a project Sarface that's out right now, and how that has like this really cool comic book blend all throughout it. And I know that oh my goodness, what's that man's name? I almost said Kid Cudi, but I know it's not him. Metro Boomin. He
Mr.
just
Boom,
released
yeah,
a comic book as well.
yeah.
Um, I'd like to
Somebody
know
else did too.
for what for Metro Boomin.
No, somebody else did another rapper did a comic book.
Can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. I just uh I don't know. I guess I would like
Mhm.
to ask you, what are your thoughts on blending hip hop and comic books? And if you were to make another project, or if you were to make another project, what's something that you have interest in melding the two genres together?
That's a good question. Well, I am again. We're working on a static book, and there is a hip hop and comics chapter in the static book,
Hmm.
which kind of like goes into, you know, how hip hop not only has influenced other medias, but specifically comics, and how hip hop is just like a broader cultural aspect of our storytelling, right? Like hip hop is
Mhm.
the sonic version of our storytelling, and comics is the visual of a storytelling. So it's all storytelling. It's just different aspects of it. And
Mhm.
you know, I am overwhelmed with the static book because I understand how important static is to people, especially to Black nerds. So I definitely am aware of the type of impact this book can have. And I'm learning a lot, but I am also uh appreciative of the efforts of all Black cultural journalists and media people before me. Because, even though I have like this really hang up of all these black cultural books coming out, but they're not written by black people, right? You talk, I mean, you
Mhm.
could just pick a number of black history books, nonfiction books about hip hop, about, 90s street fashion, even black hairstyles. There's a
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
big chance those books about black culture are not written by black people.
Mhm.
So I definitely wanted to sort of course correct that because I feel like where we are now in us in this political landscape, we don't know what the future of publishing is going to be like, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Like even now, it's beginning to be a little hard for me to go into archives for this book because access is being denied, access is limited. So it's a struggle right now, and I just want to say to anybody that's watching this, get a blog, get a YouTube channel, and just talk about things that are happening in the now because you don't know 5 years from now, 7 years from now, somebody might be looking for something that you're talking about to add it to their archival work, especially as Black creatives. I'm not a historian, I'm a journalist, but I am doing some historian work by trying to explain the landscape that Static and these black superheroes created by black people were thriving in at the time. I hope that answered your question. I don't think it did.
I think no, you're fine. I think you hit on a really big piece of it. Actually, you bring up a really important conversation about the importance of like being historians within our own culture, even
Mhm.
though that's not necessarily
Mhm.
like our technical title. Because
Mhm.
so much of our history, even though like a lot of modern history is kind of internet documented, I still find in the work that I'm doing that a lot of black history, especially even modern internet black history, is still primarily oral. We're sharing these experiences from person to person, and a lot of us are having a hard time actually showing documentation of things that we all remember collectively happening.
Yeah.
So I think it's really
Mhm.
important work what you're doing is with the
Right.
static book. Um, and I think actually it does cover the question of like hip hop in comics. I feel like if we're taking comics not as necessarily like these just superhero books, but as pieces of
Mhm.
history and pieces of documentation, being able to document our this competitive art form in comics is super cool. And I'm
Right.
really excited.
Yeah. And speaking to that, Method Man has a comic book, right? He has a
That's
comic book that he did with Sanford Green, and Sanford Green is part of the Bitterroot team.
Mhm.
The creator of Static. Now, this is going to be in the book, so I guess I'll give you all a sneak peek. The creator of Static also did the cover for Jesus cover Wu Tang. So there is not just the implication of hip hop and comics together. There's an actual breathing testament that the co-creator of Shock illustrated the cover for a Wu-Tang member. So it's there. And if you look at the GZA's album cover, Liquor Swords, you can see the Milestone Comics influence on it.
Mm.
Nice.
That's a hip hop fact that's gonna be in the static book because I think a lot of people don't know
Awesome.
that.
Shameless plug, the curator of Static is in the Indie Breakdown group and he's really cool and very participatory. But but I guess not a shameless plug for me, but regardless. Um I was gonna say as a journalist, I feel like even though you're not historian per se, even I know what Ty said about us being historians, but just I feel like journalisms have to do a lot of historical research
Mm-hmm.
for what they
Mhm.
do. And so while you may not be a historian by trade, like some
Mhm.
that still kind of goes hand in hand with your title. And I mean it's
Mhm.
a lot of work that you put into it. And then also speaking of journalists, I read somewhere on the internet that you were a really big Queen Latifah fan. So am I.
Mhm.
And that her character of Khadijah on Living Single was actually a really big influence for you. And so I was curious
Yeah.
how that influenced your vision with your magazine.
Oh, huge. So like I said, I don't know how old I was when Living Single came out. Maybe 7. maybe seven or something. It came out in 94, 95.
Right,
So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, seven, something like that. And I remember because I was really obsessed with Different World, right? I just knew as a little girl, I'm going to college. I'm gonna be a black girl in college. I'm gonna be on campus. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot wait to go to college, right? That was me. And so then, like, right after Different World was living single. So it was like, this is what life is after college. And so I just knew when I was going to be an adult, I was going to move to Brooklyn and live in a brownstone and date a fine rapper slash, I don't know, whatever, and just be living the New York City life and like that really gritty life that I did not have in Chicago. Now that's saying that Chicago is not as good as New York, but there's a difference, right? Chicago is more warm and not temperature wise, but like culture
Mm-hmm.
wise, because a
Everything.
lot of people from the South. So in Chicago, you walking down the street, people say, "Good morning, good afternoon, how you doing?" In New York, and be like, "Yo, suck my balls, son." Like, it's just real different. So,
I have not been to
so
Chicago.
yeah, so I just knew that. And seeing like this really beautiful black woman who ran a magazine, her own vision, who
Mm-hmm.
dated fine as men throughout the show, just instilled a certain self-esteem in me that I did not really get, because again, representation, you never really was seeing like bigger plus size fat women as leading
Mm-hmm.
ladies on TV in the 90s, right? I mean, it was Neil Carter. She was beautiful, she could sing, she dressed really, really good, but she was still in that nanny, caretaker type of role that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the golden era of TV for black women and brown women. But Queen Latifah was like single, childless, very openly sexual. And even though she only dated men on the show, there were so many times where her character kind of like broke character and she kind of like coded herself queer, right? So as a person who identifies as queer, I said, yo, she me. She thinks she me. I think I'm her. I want to be her. And so, you know, from then on, when I started reading magazines, I would just cut out all of my favorite magazine articles, all of my favorite photo shoots, so I can just like visualize what the perfect magazine would be like. So, all the magazines in the 90s that are no longer um, accessible or they're all defunct, I've been able to like go through some of them for the static book, but like going back into finding the honey magazines and finding, rap pages and going back to find Giant magazine and Suede and all these black magazines that told, our favorite writers that we look at in commentary today, like uh there's so many of them started from writing pop culture that nobody else was writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember those behind the scenes. What was it, behind VH1 or something that used to come
Yeah.
out in the late
Mm-hmm.
90s, early 2000s? And I will always see people like George Nelson explaining Black culture. And my thing was like, who are these people and why are they position to talk about black culture? Like, why I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be the voice of black culture. And moving to New York to go to pursue journalism, again, this is how life is really funny. Towards my last year at LIU in Brooklyn, George Nelson was actually my professor. He was my professor for a media class, and we talked about the impact of appropriation and just shaping our narratives in culture, our own personal narratives in culture. So again, that was like a big moment for me, watching somebody like Jordan Nelson on TV and then have him as a professor, to now having him support my endeavors. In 2018, you brought up Black Panther, and
Yeah.
Black Panther, first Black Panther was huge, right? And I was very sad at the lack of inaction from Marvel as far as like merchandise and just,
Mm.
it wasn't like an urgency from Marvel, and I was really
Mm-hmm.
disappointed in that. But there was a lot of opportunity cultural wise to kind of like capitalize off that, and to capitalize not necessarily monetarily, but just capitalize off the space. And
Mm-hmm.
I was able to host over 300 blurs for a private screening in New York City. It was in Black Enterprise and everything. Like, I just was able to bring all these people together. We was popping champagne in the movie theater. I gave away a bunch of comics from my personal collection. Like, again, Marvel didn't do anything. I reached out for help. I asked them, like, hey, y'all could just send some buttons or something. And they would not do anything. But, Black creatives such as Sean Martin Burgo, Professor John Jennings, anybody who's worked at Marvel, or Black creators who worked at Marvel, or who've worked on, Black Panther, sent me their personal swag so I could give it out to
Mm-hmm.
people for like little prize bags and stuff like that. So somebody right now has like a personalized Sean Martin Black Panther poster from the movie. But yeah, that was really
I
important for
wish I
me.
would.
And outside of, I listen, and you know what? It was like a really magical moment because it was word of mouth. I did not advertise the event. It was more like only invite the people you know. Don't invite no
Mm.
extras. Don't invite no outside people. This is not a cookout, all right? This is private. It's for us. So only invite people you know. And that's how it happened. People were just emailing me like, "Yo, my friend with this email address told me about these Black Panther, blah 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 blah." And yeah, that's what we did.
That's
That is like
incredible organizing.
right. It's a perfect example of exactly what we need to do. How we
Hmm.
need to organize. Like, don't put it on the internet. Tell a friend that you know is
Exactly.
trustworthy, and
Yes.
that friend tells a friend, and then the friend, and the friend, and then everybody just shows up. Boom.
All right, so
Organize.
I'm sending you the Black Enterprise article, and I think the picture of Misty Knight might be in here.
Um,
Oh,
I think you actually, it's Black History Month, so I'm going to ask some, so slightly, of course, I'm definitely going to ask about your comics a little bit later, but I do
mhm,
have a question specifically about organizing the event. Um, I
Hmm.
think it's really unique right now. We're kind of in a place of where, like, I feel like Black spaces are in a shift from being open culturally in a way that is open to exploitation, and we are now in a space of we're gatekeeping, but not in the traditional sense of like we don't want people to
mhm,
just not have access because, but we're in a space of gatekeeping because we want to protect the culture and we want to guard the
right.
culture and have a higher threshold for people to have access to what we're putting out. um in the way that you marketed this, by not marketing it at all, you just were like, hey, tell your friend. um
Hmm. Hmm.
did you find something uniquely special about curating your event in this way?
Hmm.
Did it change the energy instead of just like kind of making an open invitation in which technically anyone could have showed up, but the like you're specifically trying to curate a Black attendance versus just saying
Hmm.
to an individual Black person who you know will because the expectation is you're going to invite your Black friends. Did you
Mm.
see kind of a
Hmm.
difference in the energy in the space for this particular event that you hosted?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody understood the assignment. Like when you
Mm,
get Black people together and we want to do something, everybody understands the assignment because my
Mhm,
thing was like this. Safety is, this is before the pandemic. Safety is a concern. My
mhm,
concern was if the internet and everybody knew that over 300 Black people was gathering at a movie theater on whatever
mhm,
night, Friday night, you know, I would not want any issues, right? Because
mhm.
you don't want to cause any disturbance, with one, but two, you don't want any agitators. And that was really my,
Right.
I don't want agitators. And I move with that type of caution because as a journalist, I have been targeted.
mm,
I've been targeted by white supremacists, I've been targeted by incels. And so with that notion and having that experience, it's like, okay, we're not just going to talk about this because I want everybody to have a good time. I want to have a good time. And I don't want to have to think about the safety of not just myself, but others all the time. So having an event where it's kind of like word of mouth, right? You got to know somebody to know somebody. Um,
Mhm,
Things that were different from any other event that I have had. So we opened the show at 7 o'clock.
mm,
Black people, the people that came were lined up at 6:30, 6:15, right? Many of them got out of line to like help, like, because people started coming up and like, so crowd control, it was an issue. People were like helping usher people in and passing out tickets. Like everybody wanted to make sure everybody was having a very smooth time. We got in. The ticket included free popcorn and a drink, so everybody waited in line. It was a really good time. It was a lot of people. It took about 8 to 10 months to put together between signing contracts with the movie theater and putting down payments and getting the swag together, transporting the swag and all that type of stuff. It's definitely not a one person type of thing. You definitely need the community support. So while most platforms like blogs and influencers and things like that, they want to push a lot of content for clicks. My The center of my community has always been community first. Like I'm not a person who puts out content to beat the algorithm. I'm not a person who writes hot topics and hot pieces and op-eds for reactions. I'm not trying to anger people. I'm not trying to get hate bait. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to do that. So cultivating a community for me just has been easier because I might publish something a few times a month. I might only do it once a month. I might not publish anything for 2 months, but I interact with my community on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? So even though I'm not publishing anything, I'm still sharing information. I'm still sharing resources. We're still communicating. We're still supporting authors. So I might not publish anything on my website, but I'm still hosting my, graphic novel book club with Sister Sci-Fi. I'm still a moderator at the Schaumburg Black Comic Book Fest. I nominated for an Ignag's nominee last year for A Taste of Venus. So like I'm doing stuff. I'm not always visible in the stuff that I'm doing, but I am doing things to, propel the culture, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Yes, yes, it
Much.
does. Yes, it does. Um,
Ooh.
Tasha, I'm gonna throw it back to you. I don't want to take. I don't want to answer. I don't want to ask all the questions.
Nah, I was gonna say I love that that it rotates around the culture and creating
Hmm.
content that has to do with your community and keeping people engaged and not because the hate bait is so
Mhm.
It's easy to fall into. It's really easy to fall into because it's easy to fall into with a hot take.
mhm.
And I mean, I've done my share of hot takes. Don't get me twisted. I remember one Black History Month when I was still writing over at HuffPost. I think I made fun of Trader Joe's collard greens because they put cranberries in it, and it was like I thought it was funny. I sometimes I
Ew,
write just to flex my
gross.
satirical muscles, right? Just because
Hmm.
I think I'm funny sometimes, and sometimes I just laugh at my own jokes. And I thought it was funny. I thought it was cheeky, and I thought, Black people going to read this and laugh. But
Right.
then when I saw that the Atlantic had picked it up and was dissecting the shit I was saying,
Mm.
as in like, technically collard greens come from Argentina, so it's not a like the stupid, right? It's like it's like, why are you spending this much time on collard greens? Like,
Because a black woman
sir,
wrote about it.
Yeah,
you
because
know,
Because a black woman
sir.
wrote about it.
because
That's
it's
all.
right.
Yeah. So I was just
Yeah.
like,
But I mean,
okay,
also
whatever.
though, is a hot take or whatever really this like hot takes can be done well. Some people really are just
Yeah,
throwing
I don't hate
rage
hot
bait
takes
out
because
there,
sometimes a hot take is needed. Sometimes a
right?
hot take is
Yeah.
needed.
Like
Okay,
there
I've
are
written,
people generally
like
just
I said, I've
rage baiting out there, just saying the
yeah, people,
craziest
yeah,
things.
yeah, people who rage bait are different. People because they do it to shock. It's kind of like shock
Hmm.
journalism and sensationalism. They do it to shock. They run up the numbers, and then the problem with that is when you run up the numbers and you kind of like pride yourself for running up these numbers, you have to
Hmm.
consistently do it, right? It's not like a one
Right.
time thing. Like, oh, this went viral a million times because I was being racist and
Hmm.
transphobic, and now you got to keep doing it to keep
Right.
those numbers going because you're using those numbers to appeal to advertisers. So you
Mhm.
can't just go from going viral one time and then never going viral again and thinking that
Hmm.
your value is the same.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think because we've commodified everything we do, right? We just can't do shit because we like it, right? I can't write comics because I just want to write comics. I'm writing comics because I want to get paid for it. But I
Yeah.
also want to be able to tell a story and be
Mhm.
compensated my worth at the same time, right? Just
Mhm.
because I am a woman doesn't mean I should get paid less
Mhm.
because, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's what we are. And
Mhm.
I want to read more comics by Black women and Black queer people.
Mhm.
Um, I made
Yeah,
a
yeah,
joke on
that's
Blue
both of them.
Sky about wanting to produce more misandry prose since men think women, misandry is a thing. So I definitely want
Oh,
to
well,
lean
then
into
I have
that
a
to make it
book
really
for
see
you.
that would be my rage bait. See, that's my rage bait to make
Now, look,
men upset.
honestly, if you want a more misandry book, I have a book for you. Now, I haven't read it yet because I still haven't gotten mine yet because I'm still waiting. But from how it was described to us, it's perfect.
Mhm.
What is the
Uh,
book?
oh crap, magic, Black Girl Magic.
Yep.
The way she
Black
Written
Girl
described
by.
the
Magic.
book, it's perfect. It's written by Crystal.
Think that this is a good opportunity to get into the meat and potatoes here. Your magazine, Fabulize Mag, which I've had the opportunity. I spent yesterday going through your magazine and going through the actual like articles, and it's beautiful. You've done you've done an amazing job curating this
Oh,
magazine.
damn. I
Sure.
really wish you would have told me that she was gonna do that. I would have fixed up because I would have fixed it up a
Oh
little bit more.
no, no, no,
What? The
no, no,
website is
no.
nice. What are you
No, what are
talking
we
about?
fixing up? No, 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 no. There's no fixing up here. Um, I will say from somebody, I'm definitely no journalist or anything like that, but I definitely do press and media for conventions,
She
and
is very humble.
Mhm.
I will say that writing articles, editing articles, posting them, actually making them look good for a website, and then in your case, also prepping that for print, making sure that you are to some degree marketing it. Like that's a lot of work, and you're managing that
Mhm.
largely by yourself. That's an incredible.
Managing.
I mean, aren't we
You're
all managing?
we're managing,
We're all managing.
but you're doing it. You're how was this journey of from start to finish? If you could give me just a little bit of your story about Fabulize. How did you start Fabulize and basically take it from its genesis to where it is now?
All right, so yeah, Queen Latifah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I wanted to have a name because, I feel like magazines need to have that one name, like Vogue and Cosmopolitan.
Mhm.
You needed one word, right? So then I came up with Fabulize. I was like, is that a real word? It's not a real word. But then I'm a big fan of The Simpsons. And there's an episode where like Lisa goes to school and she's like, she dolls herself up, put on makeup, and she's like, can a girl just fabulize herself? And I was like, that's it. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. So, no one has ever been to really clock that is a Simpsons reference, and I hope the Simpsons never sue me for that.
Not gonna
Um,
lie, that was
uh,
actually gonna be one of my questions about the Simpsons. You hit it good.
and only one person has ever clocked that is a Simpson from The Simpsons, and that is when I interviewed former Senator Carol Mosley Braun. She sent me a notice and was like, "Hey, Fabulous, you watch The Simpsons? I watched The Simpsons, and is that the same thing?" And like to have the first Black woman senator of the United States recognize my magazine as a Simpsons reference blew my mind. Like I was just like, "Oh my god, we're nerds together!" And we kind of like Star Trekked out. We was on our little Trekkie,
Ooh.
conversation. It was really cool.
I
No, I'm a huge Simpsons fan, so I actually did one of my questions was going to be about Lisa
Mhm.
Simpson and Fabulous. So I'm glad that was actually the case. And I did remember where I was going earlier. I was going to ask about you balancing that line between um, advocation, staying in your audience interests, and but also not worrying about, you know, for sake of better words, fighting with the algorithm in everything you do, whether it's the magazine, whether it's the comics, whether it's just your lifestyle or events or hosting. How do you balance that line?
I don't. I you can look up my Instagram. I don't post to Instagram. I kind of divested from Instagram about 6 or 7 years ago
Mm,
for several reasons. Only because, I don't really like all of the filters on Instagram and just social media apps in general, because they tend to make at least me, black girls, look lighter, make our features a little thinner, like more Eurocentric. And I feel like seeing yourself like that every day can't be healthy. So I divested from like photo apps, and that's why I'm not really on TikTok, because
Mm.
as a physical fat woman, that easily makes me a target, and I don't need people on the internet breaking or trying to break my self-esteem,
mm,
or because people can be really weird. People are weird. So I
That's
don't really
facts.
do photo sharing apps like that. I mean, I know Instagram is where influencers are born and made, and where you get the message out. I mean, I do post occasionally, but like I'm not a person who's on Instagram every single day. No, like you can send me a message today and I might not answer you next week. It's not because I don't think you're important. It's because I just don't check the Instagram like that.
mm.
Mm.
Well, you bring up a really good point. Um, and I guess I don't really think about it too much, but
Mhm.
just by default, by being a fat black person, a fat
Mm.
black woman
Mhm.
online, you're just inherently a target.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
guess I've kind of taken the idea, like when I've first started doing social media, a lot of people, it's just like, you got to develop this thick skin because people are wild, people are rude online. But I also think
Hmm.
it's really important that I and other creators remind themselves, especially black women creators, that we don't actually have to subject ourselves to that kind of hate or to that kind
Mhm.
of abuse online. That's not something that has to be done. And I feel like I've seen a lot of
Mhm.
black women, especially within this nerd space, get bullied off their platforms and
Yeah.
lose everything simply because they are black and they're doing things that they love. And I'm actually happy
Mhm.
that you said that,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
divested, because you don't need that. You're so right.
Yeah, I don't need
Really
that. And
don't.
again, I'm from Chicago. I don't need that. I will fight. I'm 5'9". I don't have no qualms walking up in the con and knocking somebody out. That is pretty much my MO. But I have a child, so I'm trying to be a little bit more calmer these days and,
Mhm.
be more strategic. But yes, I will fight. I do not care. And I'm not an influencer, so I don't really have any shame about it. But um yeah, so I'm really not the person to play with threats on the internet, because I take threats very seriously. And plus my anxiety is
See,
bad. Like I will shank you. Please
see,
leave me alone,
Tashi,
sir.
I told you, crash out. Actually, I shouldn't. I should do that.
Yeah, no. Like, come on,
Yeah.
don't do it. No crashing out. That's what we're here for. To keep
Yeah.
to keep you from the crash out.
Oh no, it's not a crash out on me, it's a crash out on the other person, because I
Oh
know what
yes.
I'm doing. I'm being very specific. But yeah, and also as a journal, but I think as a journalist there is, I don't want to say privilege, but
Mm.
there there can be a little favoritism on with me with other creators, because if they see a journalist is interested in them, they think, well, maybe she's working on a story, or maybe
Mm.
she's doing something. It's like, no, I just wanted to, I'm a fan, and that's it. And sometimes that's good enough, sometimes it's not.
People exist in their fandoms as well, not just in whatever they may do for
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
Definitely had that one. Like, oh, it's the people that's just like, oh, can you read my thing, and then can you do like a review? And it's like,
Right.
no, I don't do that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that, and I just kind of wish people would understand how reviews work. Like,
Mhm.
to be honest, people people have a short reading attention span when it comes to media. So, there are websites that publish every comic that drops a brief review. But the thing is,
Mhm.
no one's reading. All right,
Yeah.
no one's reading them. That is mainly primarily for the distributor. Well, it used to be
Mhm.
Diamond, but it's not
Mhm.
Diamond anymore. So it's like Penguin Random House or whatever. It's for the
Right.
it's for the press.
It's
That's
for
a
them.
media relation type of thing. It has to do with the creators or whatever the case may be. So
Mhm.
I'm not. doing it to have access because I have the access. So if I'm reviewing something, it's because I want to review it, and I've found something that's relatable to everyday stories, or it could tie into something,
Hmm.
or I just simply like it, you know.
Right.
So yeah, so
And that's
I
actually where we
I
are.
understand. I like to use a example of a young lady named Jasmine Truesdale. She
Hmm.
has a Oza Comics universe, and she met me on LinkedIn. I think she was looking for, like, who are the girls writing about comics and
Mhm.
media. And that's how, and she told me that's how she found me on LinkedIn. And she kept pinching me her comic, but I didn't have a story for it. And
Mhm.
she didn't give up though. She said, "Hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm working on." And when I was able to feature her, it took a while, but I was. So I just would like to tell creators, like, no one's just gonna post your comics because they posted it.
Right.
Um, if you want mainstream media to mention you, you need to write a comic that can tie into mainstream events. That's
Hmm.
why people are, you know, gravitating more to dystopia, because we feel like we live in a dystopia, right? So
Mhm.
people writing more horror. Horror is really popular right now. Horror wasn't as popular like 5 years ago, but because we feel like we're living in a horror every day, people are turning to horror for optimism. So you have to know your market, know where your fans are, and then pitch media. I know that's weird coming from someone who also creates, because I don't do any marketing for the comics I've done so far, only because I've been in anthology. So I let the marketing people and the editors do the work.
Mm.
No, that's nice. I actually have Jasmine's books. I have the actual book and I have the kids book. So I actually very much enjoy her stuff. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that for real. Like people have asked us, like, can you read my book and review it? And we're like, no, please. Uh, we have an entire series called "What We're Reading," where we talk about books we're reading, and we literally it's hey we talk about books we like. We legitimately just talk about books we like, and that's all how that goes. It wasn't until Ty turned us to the dark side that we started doing reviews, and we only review books that she asks us to review out of the kindness of our hearts and not taking any other
I only
if
review
she doesn't
books.
say that she wants us to review it, then we're not doing it. So talk to her.
I only review books that are interesting to me. I mean, I feel like
As you should.
right, because like it's just I'm actually just so happy to like just have the opportunity to hear someone verbalize a lot of my sentiments about it. Like
Hmm.
truly within this comic book space, we are facing like, and within the nerd space, we're facing an overconsumption epidemic is what it feels like. It's like everything is it's like whatever gets put out, we all have to consume it right then and there. We all
Hmm.
have to produce our opinions right then and there. It
Hmm.
all has to be the right opinion right then and there, and who
Hmm.
knows what that could be. And then if your opinion is so far out of whatever everyone else is saying, then it's considered the wrong opinion, and and now you have to make a whole bunch of videos validating your opinions. And if you
Hmm.
make something too late, then everyone's like, oh well, that's so 2 months ago. It's like it's
Hmm.
a, and if it's not within a specific genre, everyone, like, you're not wrong. Dystopias and horror are two big genres
Very
that should be
popular. Yeah.
popular and are popular, but yet we still have this in this little microcosm. People are still reviewing this, still talking about superhero books as if superhero we're like there's nothing super about the time that we're living in. And I, on top of superhero fatigue, like I feel like reviewing books that don't spark joy, especially when that's the only reason why I buy comics at this point, is
Hmm.
for joy.
Hmm.
Why
This
would I
makes
want
sense.
to review something that makes me sad? Why would I want to
Review
take
something
part
that
in
I
something
don't
that's joy?
enjoy or that frustrates me. If
Mhm.
I can't
Yeah.
read a book that frustrates me and then go on to be like, all right, well, here's my constructive review, because honestly, what I really want to say is it was bad and I
Mhm.
did not enjoy it, and there's nothing I mean, nothing I can do for you. Like I've read three books back to back in the last 2 weeks that were just awful, honestly. And it was just like, yeah, I'm glad that I'm not telling you what I think about this because I don't want to.
But yeah, I guess I have, well, I have two questions. First, I would have a question was, in your personal opinion, on kind of just like how we cycle through content, not even just like as a in media, but like how we're kind of expected to cycle through content. How do you curate what you choose to read or what you choose to consume? And then in that same vein, how do you curate what then goes up on your website, other than just kind of like picking through what you feel ties into a current event?
That is a really good question. Um, that's a really good question. So I think a part of it, I'm not a trend reporter, right? So,
Mhm.
but based on the type of content that, because content to me comes in waves, right?
Mhm.
Um, right now, romantasy is like really huge, right? And then, dystopia, then horror, and then everybody wants to be vampires, and then we're gonna go back to like, space operas and everything like that. So everything comes in like different waves. So I have to kind of just go with my gut instinct, and sometimes, so things that I curate on Fabulize, I don't really curate it for like, for of the now. I look for more evergreen topics, right? So like if it's shopping content might be trendy because that's a kind of like an impulse type of thing, right? Because if you see it, you
Mhm.
want to buy it. But like, content like book lists, those are just based on my tastes, what I think people are talking about, because I try to stay plugged in with like book influencers and book talkers, because as a journalist I also do professional book reviews. So I try to see what they're talking about and see what people want to talk about and read. Um, and yeah, I just gonna go based off what my taste is, things that I like and things that I think my community likes. My community loves events. They love, again, as a millennial, we love to paint and sip. We love
Mhm.
the cultural bazaar events. We love a dance party or a brunch, or we love, activities and concerts. We can go with our family and friends. So just, finding content that my community likes and posting about it, and hopefully finding more people who want to join the community.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That, that's actually a really cool way to curate it, and it goes back to what you were saying about doing the things that you love.
I think she or
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah,
the
because once you start doing things you don't like and you making content just to feed the algorithm, it
it
feels
gets
like a chore. It feels like a
mhm.
task. It feels like a job. And if you're not, when you
Sucks all
start
the
to feel
love out
like
of it.
that, yeah, it sucks the love out of it. And then if you're not receiving instant gratification, whether you're looking for a number of likes, a number of shares, or a number of metrics to like give you money for it, if you don't hit it, you feel depressed. And how's that motivation to make you keep doing it if you feel like you're failing every time you do it? So, yeah, I would say create content and don't worry about the algorithm, um, because you don't have enough money to play with the algorithm. And it's not that's shade, but algorithm is
Mm-hmm.
manipulative with money.
Mm. Mm.
People who buy a certain amount of ads can manipulate the algorithm for themselves. People who go into like subscriptions for different sites can manipulate. So don't worry about the algorithm. People, what's meant to see, people will see it, and you will find your community.
Mm.
I think you had one more tie.
Huh?
I said I think you said you had two questions, right?
Yeah, I did. I have one other question. Um, I'm sorry. Just everything she says is so wonderful. I get awestruck real easy. Um,
Oh, that's so sweet.
oh, don't tell me I'm sweet. I just melt.
Lord have mercy. Here we go. Freaking
um,
gracious.
I'm a cornball. Don't get me started. um, so I know you said you mostly stay kind of unplugged from social media, but you do seem
No,
to.
I'm plugged in. I just don't do the
Okay,
photo and the videos.
okay,
Like,
got
so
it.
I'm like super, I'm more active. I guess my main
I see
social
you
media
more
that I
on
use right
bikes
now
and everything.
is Blue Sky. I'm on Blue
Okay,
Sky. That's my main home right now.
okay. Do you watch any YouTube or anything like that?
I watch well, I have a friend who does a podcast, a sci-fi fantasy podcast called A Thousand Eyes, and she and her co-host are on YouTube. There's Black Gay Comic Geek.
Yes.
He's on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube and big on TikTok. There's Frankie. She's now working with a project with
With
DC.
DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the Pink Riot Show with
Yeah.
Bree and Keisha.
Yep.
So yeah, I keep if I mean I'm not on YouTube a lot, but I follow them like on TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, formerly Twitter, everywhere else.
Right. I guess that was my question is even though you're not on like any photo sharing apps, how do you kind of stay tapped into these communities where you're of interest? And now I know like you kind of find people that you like, it seems, and then you kind of from there you follow that creator kind of wherever you most consume content.
That and people come to me. You know, if
Hmm.
I don't know about something, as a journalist, people love coming to me and sharing everything, dropping links, screenshots. I mean, people tell me everybody else's business. And that's the thing about being a journalist because they're like, oh, did you see this? Did you see this? Oh, did you see this? Oh, this person got fired from this. You know, when the disillusion of the Black and Brown Comic Fest and on the West Coast, I had different people inboxing me the tea, and I'm like, I haven't even been to this con. Like, I don't even know all these people, but y'all telling me, okay, 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 I will remember because I remember situations. Like I have like a photographic memory sometimes. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm just dial it in my brain. And when their name come up later at a different time, I'll be like, "Oop, I heard that name before." Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm.
I actually was going to ask about some of the other stuff you tackle on your platform. So, like you
Mhm.
really like to tackle body positivity, parenting, stuff like that. How do you keep those consistent while also sticking to like the feminism in the creative and spaces? That was not the word I was trying to use, and I lost it like as soon as I had it too.
That's okay. Well, I mean,
Nerd spaces, they will say it like that.
well, here's the thing. So a lot of nerds don't like feminism. They don't like intersectional politics. They don't like any of that. They just want to create superheroes and gawk at non-black girls with big titties and whatever. That's their prerogative. But I got tired of being oppressed in black spaces with other
Hmm.
black people just because we all like science fiction and fantasy. Like that shit is weird to me. And I really detest when black males kind of mimic the actions of white males. Is really
Hmm.
cringy to me. Like you don't have to be an edge lord, bro. Like it's okay. So I created my own space. I was like, okay, because every time I would go in these spaces, I'll get blocked or whatever the case may be, censored. So I created my own space, and it has come with a lot of good, because the people that are in the community for real, and
Mm.
I've had so many awesome opportunities to expand my platform based on the community I've created. So, like last year, I was able, for the first time ever, to speak at the Nubula Awards, right? Which is really big if you love science fiction and fantasy, right? So, I don't have a book out, right? I've written a couple, comics, but I'm not someone you would see at the Nebula. I mean, maybe because I review books, but not doing a panel, right? And it's because I wrote an essay for science fiction writers anthology called Publish and Talk Me, talking about my experiences in the book publishing industry as a journalist. And Nisi Shaw was one of the editors, right? And I was able to connect with Nisi Shaw because they had published a short story collection book a few years ago that I had reviewed and posted on Fabulize, right? So just having those connections and just people, I would like to believe that people remember the good deeds of other people. So just
Hmm.
having that connection and just maintaining that consistency. It's hard to be consistent and true to your values, because people only like it when it benefits them. But when it no longer benefits them, that's when they have an issue with it. So you have to really maintain your identity and the what your morals are. If your morals are A and B, if C, D, and E don't like it, you have to be okay with it. And you have to be okay with them cutting you off because of where you stand and your morals too.
Nope, it was perfect because that,
Yeah.
that went along with how I had originally phrased the question and completely lost in my brain. No,
Um,
I love that because yeah, it's they don't like feminism and stuff in this space, and it can be frustrating.
yeah.
It's really frustrating when the people who are leading those conversations are other Black creatives, like notable creators. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
not gonna throw any names out, but I've seen it over the course of years, and I
It's okay.
know
I've seen it.
that's why some of them probably avoid me because it's like I got the receipts. I've seen it. I've seen it. I was there.
Hmm.
Not gonna lie to me. I've seen it.
Hmm.
So, when you have again things that people do behind scenes when they think no one's watching, and then it comes to find out oh, somebody was watching you.
Hmm.
You know, it makes people move kind of funny.
Yeah, there's a quote my father used to tell me when growing up: "People don't care who you are; they care what you've done."
Hmm.
Mhm.
So,
I think that's actually pretty poignant what you said because me and Tashi have talked about it before. That I think in the conversation with Crystal, where she's actually fairly a newcomer into the nerd
mhm,
space, and how she initially kind of experienced a little bit of that misogyny and misogynoir in the space,
mhm,
and was curious to see how people, especially men, moved in this space because just like I had mentioned at that point, the comic book space is still predominantly white men, and then
mhm.
after that
Mhm.
it's going to be black men or every other kind of man, and then there's women after that. um,
Right.
Mhm.
so black women make up such a small portion of the consumers but also the creators of that
Yeah,
space.
right.
So
Especially
oftentimes
mainstream.
so oftentimes we kind of get flailed around because they feel like, oh, we can kind of say whatever because such a small part of the people who create or read are black women, but not realizing it's just like, but some of your favorite things, some of the things that you don't even realize are created by black women are created by black women, and you
Mhm.
are being watched. We see how you operate.
Right.
Um, it's very it can be really uncomfortable because and especially if you call it out, they try to make you feel
Yeah.
like, no, that's not true. We love everyone. This is a
Hmm.
safe space. Is it really?
Is it though? It actually reminds me of a thread
Yeah,
Stephanie
there's
made
one
earlier today, where she was
there's
saying, "My bad."
there's one indie comic Black creator who comes to mind who does that, right? They'll be like, oh, we need to get behind Black creators, support Black indie comics. And then like when he goes to these cons, he's being homophobic and transphobic and fatphobic and just misogynistic and sexist. And like people still support him because he's Black and he creates these comic books. Then come to find out he don't really have all Black people on his team. He just but whatever. Not
Mhm.
my monkey, not my show.
Am I monkey?
And
What does it say? Was it my
it's
not my monkeys, not my circus?
the truly, and I think it's so funny.
I got that from my grandma. My grandma from the South. So she'd be like, not my
No,
monkey, not
I
my
know
show.
I can't think of the phrase that I usually hear. Is it not my monkeys, not my circus, something like that?
My name Benny
Oh
and I ain't
yeah.
in it. I ain't never seen nothing like that. That's very nice.
Mm,
But you're not wrong. It's such a. It's. I feel like that's an. If anything, it goes to show the incredible importance of having especially someone like you in the space who not
mhm,
only has the education, because I definitely don't want to. You have the education because sometimes people try to punk you or try to little
right.
bro you. You have the education and you have the experience and you have
Mhm,
the cultural awareness of being in this space. So having someone like you in this space is incredibly wonderful. And Fabulize Magazine is another incredible piece of this. And it clearly is a safe space. I love the fact that you don't just talk about, specifically black people, but you talk about black queer people and black
Mm-hmm.
and black marginalized people in different areas, because a lot of times we don't talk about black queerness or black disabledness or other
Mhm.
other intersections of blackness that's not
Mm-hmm.
just black heteronormativity. So I appreciate that
Mhm.
about your work already, and I'm happy that there's somebody
Very,
else out there doing the work.
very much.
Ah.
But yeah, I feel like that's the end of my questions. I could ask you a billion questions. I'm a yapper, so I don't want to overtake.
So silly. No, no. I think my very last one, honestly, is just what you have planned for the future. Really, it's just to know what plans you have coming up. Any new projects, any new
Uh-huh.
articles, anything like that.
Uh-huh. Well, I have a slew of book lists coming out from not on Fabulize, but I'm working with Penguin Random House. So they have a
Okay.
vertical called Always Black. And sometimes I write some of the book lists, like, just to encourage Black book reading and stuff like that. Um, this the static book. That's
True.
like the
True.
biggest project. I can't even talk about who I've talked to because until the interview is done and I have it written and confirmed, I can't really talk about it. But there are some hip hop names and celebrated black creatives that are interested in the project. Um, I am doing a commission that I can't really talk about because it's a private commission. I want to do more comics. I would like to do some more, get into prose writing, more short stories. I have a wish list of properties I would love to work on. I've been trying to kind of like flesh out the story I want to do. Like if I had the opportunity to work with Marvel, right? And they was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
what character you want to work on?" I would definitely do like a crime story with Vanessa Fisk because
Mm.
she's a throwaway character in Marvel. She has like really no
Yes.
backstory. She's
Right.
basically married to Fisk and then that's it, right? So
Mhm.
was there. There's nothing there. So if I had the opportunity, I'd probably grab her. Because everything I would write would be canon because she doesn't have a story. So I feel like that's less pressure when you are writing the canon for the character.
Hmm.
I would like to do another character. I would love to write. I would like to write some Callisto, like a sci-fi fantasy hoodoo inspired, but again, that's
Mm.
supernatural and Marvel. I don't know if DC would welcome me. Are there DC characters I would want to write? I would like to write some milestone content, but not necessarily icon, rocket, and static shock. Maybe hardware.
Okay.
I do have
Glad
an
I know you were
article.
talking about that.
Yeah, yeah, hardware. I actually have an article that I have in drafts that I've been like procrastinating on. So,
Mhm.
a few years ago, I wrote an article about how I thought Denzel Washington would make a good icon because icon is a little bit older.
Mm.
And now I've been seeing like all these pictures of Method Man wanting to be Bishop. But I think
Mhm.
Method Man should be hardware because I think it would be really impactful for black kids to see like their version of like Tony Stark, right? If they and
Mm.
Mhm.
Method Man is a really good actor. He's kind of
He
like really
is
grown
actually.
into his skill. And I think
Yeah.
he has the charm to pull off a hardware, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish writing that to put that out there and hopefully, somebody who knows him might read
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
What you saying, Calypso? I would love to see you write a Doctor Voodoo as
Oh yeah.
well.
Or
I think I will focus more. Well, it's not that I don't like Dr. Voodoo. It's just that I feel like I would want to write more women characters because I feel like there's not enough women writing these women characters. A lot of these women characters are just
mm,
women and
Mm.
just visual.
Oh no, we
Um,
completely
I
agree. I
will
just
have
can't think of any milestone
yeah.
characters.
So
Women that
I have the I have the unpopular opinion that men really shouldn't be writing women characters because they're not writing women's characters for women. They're writing women characters for other men. even if they're not intentionally trying to do so. It's just that, so when people talk about Storm, I know there's a current Storm book out now, and the writer,
Mhm.
I forgot his name, but he is doing a good job.
Yeah.
However, Storm is not going to hit the same for me until like a black woman get behind her and write a run,
Mhm.
so that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for a Storm written by a black woman. That's
Mhm.
what I'm waiting for.
I want that novel that
Um,
came out.
huh?
I said I want that Storm novel that just dropped.
Hmm.
That is written by a black
Um,
woman. What is it called?
all right. Well, have
Interesting.
good luck with that. Good luck with that one.
Please, please don't say it wasn't good. No, no, that one is written by a black woman. I can't remember
I
exactly.
mean, good is objective. Good is objective.
Oh no,
Oh
do
no. It
no.
is objective. You know what?
It's
Good
just
is
be sad.
good is good is it's
It is
all in
a
the
good
eye
book
on the
though.
eye of the beholder, they say.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's. I would say I would give that book to someone who has no background of Storm
Um,
Hmm.
and someone who doesn't really have a strong interest of following Storm. I think as a
um,
Storm, someone who appreciates Storm, it did not land for me. Some
mhm.
people like it. I think I think the creator of that particular book, of that author, I think Marvel should challenge them to do a graphic novel or maybe
Hmm.
like a one shot. I think they should have been challenged that way. But I also feel like, why would you give a New York Times best-selling author the opportunity of this IP when they have no speculative background? Because how can you write superhero science fiction fantasy if you don't write speculative fiction? You see what
Mm,
I'm saying? It's like getting a romance writer and saying, "Hey, um, can you do a prose of this Freddy Krueger content?" And
Okay,
let's see
gotcha.
what you
Yeah.
come up with.
mhm.
Because you're a bestseller. So I that's what I think. Again, is
Gotcha.
objective. Some people may like it. I also have some YA tropes I don't really like. Like I don't like the idea of older people, specifically men, older men, younger girls dynamic. That's
No, I
not
hate that.
something I like to read. Yeah, so again,
I
objective,
hate those.
you know.
I might like I'm a Ty tell you anybody will tell you I'm a huge X-Men fangirl, so yeah, I'm a person who loves Storm, follows Storm, knows Storm. But I give it a try. May who knows what could happen. But yeah, but but man, we've been going. We found that good. Well, I'm gonna go ahead on to the Black Woman in Comics fact of the episode where we were talking. Oh, look, it worked this time, Ty.
Yay! It did.
We were talking about Juliana Smith, who is a community activist and educator, and created the Afrocentric genre as a way to challenge her students and other people to challenge their perspectives on race, class, gender, sex, and she won a Glyph Comics Award in 2016. So that was the Black Woman in Comics fact of the day. As I always
That's
say,
so
look her up,
cool.
right?
Yes.
The things I
Interesting thing,
learned
I met her at the Black Comic Book Fest in
really, last year.
2017,
Ah,
2017. So because the Black Comic Book Fest used to be in January. So I met
Hmm.
her January
oh,
2017, and she had an Afrocentric uh vendor. She was a vendor there in the main hall. So yeah, I that's when I first met her in her comic Afrocentric. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, wow,
wow,
it's been almost 10 years. Yeah.
wow.
Hmm.
Dang, I need to get to the next one. But yeah, no, this has been a really good conversation. This is probably our longest episode to date, at
Yeah.
least this season.
Sorry.
No,
No,
no, that
no, no,
means
no.
it was good.
That means it was amazing.
Means it was good.
Thank
So,
you.
Erica, I'm gonna let you tell everyone where they can find you and the magazine. Of course, you're not super heavy on social media, I know, but still good to just. I like to follow some people that I like their stuff, even if they're not active, because it reminds me that they're there, and it reminds me to go look at stuff later. So, the social media, the website, all of that stuff. Just let everyone know where you are.
Well, I am on social media. I'm on every platform. Like you can find me on every platform. I just don't use every platform simultaneously, especially now. I don't really have much to say. So, if you want to random thoughts, I'm on Blue Sky. My name on Blue Sky is Rosa Sparks, Sparks. Um, I'm Fabulous Mag on Instagram. I'm Fabulous Mag on Facebook. I'm Fabulous Mag on Twitter, but I'm not posting anything on Twitter at the moment. If you
Deleted my
want to
Twitter.
come into our community discussion, you can find us on Facebook under My Superheroes Are Black. It's
Mm.
about 5,000 people in the community. Just find us, join us, and be part of our community. We definitely bring accountability with each other, is all in love. So I haven't created any events yet because I've been since COVID. I haven't really been doing events. So,
Mm.
but I'm definitely going to go to the Black Comic Book Fest in New York in June. It's going to be June this year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in the summertime. So bring your babies and have a really fun time. I'm also working on a static book. I don't have a date. I'm not gonna even sit here and lie to y'all and be like, "Oh, it's gonna come out." No, I don't have a date because I'm not finished. and
We will await with
and
bated breath when you do
so I mean, if I had to like guess, I would say if I had to guess, I would say 2027 because if I finish it this year and then go through a whole year of editing and
that.
sourcing and fact checking, I would say
Yeah.
2027. But yeah, so yeah, don't ask me when the Sonic book come out. When I have a date and I can say like, all right, this is the next stage, but I am working on it. It is a passion project. And I hope not only the fans of Static enjoy it, but I hope the creators and the Black creators that worked on Static and created Static can appreciate it too. Because even though Mr. Dwayne McDuffie is no longer with us, Mr.
Mhm.
Dennis Cowan is still with us. Mr.
Mhm.
Derek Dingle is still with us.
Mhm.
And the last thing I want to do is create something and publish something not only without their blessing, but without their thumbs up. So I
Right.
want to be thoughtful, even though it's not a necessity because it is a public book. You don't need anyone's cosign for it. I'm
Mhm.
black, okay? We're all black, and we just want to be respectful
Mhm.
of people, especially their talents. And I understand that black creatives need to have all their due to them. So I'm just keeping all that in mind and just wishing for the best. And I want to come back when the static book is done, or I could say I'm done with all my edits and I'm just waiting for it to be bound. But yeah, so yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
Ty.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Again, it's Ty Black and Culture. You can find me everywhere. It's BLAQUE, the letter NKULTURE. You can Google me, and you can find me everywhere.
You said that so nicely today.
I know. Normally, I say
Usually it's
nice, but
Google me,
I've been
bitch.
trying to be. I've been trying to be nice. My mama said I can't. My mama said where my potty mouth came from, so I've been trying to be less aggressive online. But you can, in fact, Google me. It is Black History Month.
There it is.
Please do so.
Oh, see, you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me I didn't. We could curse. I was trying to be polite and not censored because I didn't want to have y'all beeping me. Listen, my daddy was a sailor. Man.
Girl, nah, yeah. For next time when you come back, you be an adult.
Oh
Go
man, you
for it.
sure about that? Because you're gonna be like, beep,
That will be my
and on
editor's
top of
house.
that, beep,
Right.
and another beep.
We will
I have
we'll
terrible
put
potty
the
mouth.
unedited version on Ty's Kofi and people can watch it there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right, Tasha. Wrap us out. Tell us where we can find you, Mama.
Won't let me move. That
Oh,
was dumb. I didn't have to go in a circle. What? Anyway, I am your other host. I'm Tashi Jones, aka Tashi J. You can find all things comic related. You can also Google us, but midnightcomics.org. All of our social media is Midnight X Comics, except for Facebook and YouTube, where we are just Midnight Comics. Um, You can also find me. I do occasionally talk comics on my page, but it is mostly dedicated to the theater arts. So if any of that interests you, you can find me on most social media at official_Tashi J. That's TOSHIJ. Everywhere except for Facebook and YouTube, where it's TOSHIJ89. So, if you're interested in theater stuff, that's where all that stuff is. Considering possibly Melanin Minds may have its own website soon, we will see. Um, a lot of this stuff, a lot of the other stuff we're doing is starting to separate more from the Midnight Comics main thing. Indie Breakdown has its own website and is possibly getting its own YouTube channel soon. So Melanin Minds may or may not follow suit. So just stick around and listen up and we'll see what happens. But anyway, remember, as I always say, to remember that a small spark can create a large flame. And we will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.